Okay, we're going to get started. Tracy?
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar on polling options for online classes. Let's begin by talking about who's going to be speaking with you today. Our webinar today will be presented by Wendy Tietz from Kent State University, Jennifer Canis from University of South Florida, and myself, Tracy Miller Nobles from Austin Community College. On that first slide, you will see a tiny URL that gives you access to all of the slides from today's presentation. So Wendy, will you show that first slide one more time so that we can see that tiny URL?
That URL is on the last slide today. It's not
perfect.
in the beginning. So okay, everyone will have access to the slides after we're done. At the end, we will be sharing it at the end today.
Excellent. Thank you, Wendy. Also, we will have on our website, accountingisanalytics.com, we also have a tab that has the recordings from the webinars that we've been doing this week. So please check out our website if you want a copy of the recording for today. In addition, if you have questions, we will answer all questions at the end of our webinar today. Please use the Q&A box on the webinar in order to post any questions you might have. So today our topic deals with polling options to use in your online courses. And to begin with, we'll start by some terminology. So we're going to use a variety of different terms. We may use polling system, classroom response system, audience response system, or clicker. And when we talk about any of these four terms, we mean the same thing. It is a type of virtual software system that your students can enter answers into based on questions that you provide them. Some of the systems will require students to have a computer or a phone or a tablet, or some of them would require an actual proprietary clicker system. And we're going to talk about the similarities and the differences between the different types of polling options today. Also, Jennifer, Wendy, and I have all used the polling options that we are presenting today. So we are happy to answer any questions that you have about the systems that we'll be talking about. Again, post those questions in the Q&A box. Okay, Wendy, passing it over to you for our first software.
Okay, so hi everyone. What I'm going to start by talking about before we get into actual systems that you could choose are ways that you would use these systems. A lot of these systems have advantages and disadvantages. They're all slightly different, but I think you can do a lot of these things with how do you use a polling system. A polling system is much more than taking attendance. We can use it as an icebreaker, a topic starter, a quick check, daily feedback, myth busting, and 1-minute paper. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to run through an example of each of those, keeping in mind that my particular topic is accounting, but they can be adapted to a wide variety of topics. So icebreaker, this is one that I used in my class, and I asked them, list one word that describes how you feel about accounting. And so they were able to give me, this is the first day, and I was able to get a feel for how they were thinking about accounting, and it was nice. So that's an icebreaker, and you can think of all different kinds of things you can ask. What did you do this summer, or what's your major? And you get a wide variety of answers. And I find that that word cloud is really nice because they communicate with you, and you can see everything that's going on. The next one, a topic starter. So a couple of years ago, Abercrombie & Fitch had to write down a bunch of its inventory because consumer preference changed from the big, big logos across the chest of a shirt to a little tiny polo. It's a little tiny logo. And so what I did with this subject then is before we even talked about the write down of inventory, I put up the two shirts and had the students vote which one they would prefer to buy. And overwhelmingly, everyone chose the one with the little tiny logo. And then that was a way for me to segue into, well, Abercrombie & Fitch has a lot of this merchandise with their name across the front that they can't sell anymore, and they have to write it down. So that's a topic starter. So sometimes you can just do a quick poll and start talking about something. Another one is a quick check to check their understanding. So this one's always fascinating to me. You can see I love word clouds. List an asset. So I ask my students, give me an asset. So that was the prompt here. And if I look through here, I could acknowledge with the students all the things that are right. You know, the cash, equipment, accounts receivable, and then there's a whole bunch of answers that are not right. Accounts payable is a liability, for example, and I got a wide variety of answers, but what was neat is I could talk about each answer. I'm not calling anyone out specifically, but it's a way for me to get a whole bunch of answers at once and address them at once. So quick checks are really nice, especially with word clouds. Okay, daily feedback. I like to do this once every week or once every other week at the last bit of class. I ask, what question do you still have about today's material? So they have a minute and they can type in their question that they have. And then after all class is done, I can go back that afternoon and look at all the questions I'm getting and kind of group them into like things. And then I start the next day addressing those groups of questions. And it is a really popular option when I do this because I know students watch for their question. And it's a nice way. They won't ask you questions if you say any questions, but if you ask them to type the question, a lot of them certainly will type some questions in there. And this is just an example from when I did that. Okay, myth busting. So this is always cool to do, to put up a question, and I use true false, put up a question that you know most people are going to get wrong. So this one, true or false, it is illegal to report different amounts of income on a company's tax return and on financial statements. So most students in my intro financial accounting class will say true because there's only one true income, right? And the answer is actually false. And so I have them answer true, and then all of a sudden I'm like, you're wrong. And they pay attention then. So myth busting is really good. If you have something that seems obvious, but it's obvious the wrong answer, that's a really good thing to do with clickers as well. And then a 1-minute paper. And I know these are used a lot in face-to-face classes where you have people take out their paper the last minute of class and answer a prompt. Like, in your opinion, what was the most important concept discussed today? What example stands out for you? What was the most memorable? You know, anything like that. And then they write for a minute. And you can do the same thing with a polling system. And what it does is it forces the student to think about what they just did. And that reflection helps with learning. And then your answers, reading through those, are really eye-opening, and it helps you guide the next day. So even if you don't have the students in front of you, it's a way for you to glimpse what they took away from that day. So those are just some ways that I use polling systems in my class. So I don't use them all the same all the time. So just kind of shuffle it, because you don't want to get into the routine where it's always the same all the time. Now there's some best practices and some things you have to consider with using a polling system, especially in today's environment where we have everyone suddenly going online. Provide an asynchronous option. You need to do this for a couple of reasons. First of all, ADA, we have, if you do only polling questions during a live class and you have a finite amount of time to answer, that may not comply with ADA, where you allow extra time for students to answer. Also, many of our students may be facing issues with low bandwidth, and they may not be able to participate in a live session. I personally love live online sessions, but it's not for everyone. So we really need to consider how we can adapt our methods to offering live online and asynchronous later, so over the same material, and let students pick as their needs dictate and what they prefer. We're going to be talking about competitions today. And competitions are great, and competitions really help increase engagement. But the big thing, don't grade competitions. Even though you're tempted, you'll say, oh, the person that wins the competition gets an extra point. That's really not fair. It is not inclusive of all your students. So competitions, not graded. With most polling questions, keep the questions short. Short is much better than a long question. Long questions are really hard to do, and maybe a long question is better in a different format in your LMS or in your homework or something like that. And then before you use a polling system, practice. You need to practice. You need to keep practicing. So do that. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to talk about 5 polling tools. I'm going to leave this, and there's that URL that we had. So it's tiny.cc/AIA-polling. So, okay. So those are slides, and also those will be, that URL will again be at the end. We will also be emailing out the recording and the slides probably tomorrow for this. Okay, so 5 polling tools. And as Tracy said, the 3 of us have used all 5 of these tools, and we've used them in our classes. The 3 of us teach anywhere from 20 students up to 800. So we have a lot of experience. I myself have done this with hundreds of students online and live at the same time and asynchronously later. So we have all used these tools, a variety of tools, and we're going to be sharing with you our experiences. So the common characteristics of the polling systems that we're talking about today are they are web-based platforms, meaning you don't have to install software necessarily to use them. Students will be able to answer on any device with a browser. When we're talking about online learning, we can't require a specific clicker. So these software things that we're talking about today all can be used on a phone, on a tablet, on a laptop. Okay, so here's our first one. Our first one is Kahoot. And Kahoot is, I put it first because it is my favorite, but just like dessert, you wouldn't have it every day. It would be on a limited diet, this would be my favorite. It is a competition. There is no student information collected with Kahoot. You can get reports on your class performance, you just don't know who is who. You can build in lesson slides with Kahoot. It is free for up to 50 students, so if you have a small class, this is a great tool for you. And then they have other plans if you have more students. I have a larger class, and I also wanted all their features. So it's a little bit more expensive. It starts at $60, goes a little bit up a little bit more, but it's certainly, and that's for a year, and it's certainly not cost prohibitive. There is no cost for the students, and I think that's important too. But again, free for up to 50 students. So the advantages of Kahoot, very easy platform to use. Gamification leads to engagement. I cannot believe how much engagement I get out of my Kahoot games. But again, it's not something you do every day. It is something you'll do on some limited basis. And it is free for up to 50 students. And one of my favorite things about it is it has an asynchronous option and a synchronous option. So those are both really good. And the disadvantage to it is there is no way to track students, which is not necessarily a bad thing either. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to play Kahoot right here, us right now. So what I'm going to do is we have a game, and what you should do is on your phone or on your computer, go to www.kahoot.it and then type in the PIN number that's on the screen, 637-9854, okay? So I'm waiting for people to join Kahoot.it and type in that PIN number up on the screen. Okay. Let's see.
working on it, Wendy, but I seem to have lost internet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on
Okay,
my
well, I just put
phone.
up a new, mine did too. So we all just went blip. Okay, so if you're in there, let's see.
Shall we use the new pin?
Use the new pin, yes, because I had to. I went blip too. Except my blip, I believe, was because my cat just walked over my keyboard. So good thing we do not have video on today, because I have Jubilee roaming across my desk. So if you hear me clunk, 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 I'm trying to remove her gracefully. Okay, so we have some people signed in. Thanks, everyone. That's great. Okay, and you'll still be able to join if I start it and you haven't. So we have 3 questions today, and I just want to show you how this works. Okay, so we are going to start, and again, you can still join if you wish. So first question. So we have 3 questions we're going to do. So we're playing a Kahoot like students could. Which of the following is not a polling system? Okay, so now you're going to, on your device, click or press the color and shape of the answer. We have I poll you, we have poll everywhere, Tophat, and iClicker. And speed does count in this competition. Okay, and you'll see on the screen that time is counting down. Now, once everyone who has signed in answers, the question will close. So it's possible the question closes before the countdown ends. So what we see here, the correct answer was I poll you. That is not a polling system, but the other 3 are polling systems that I am going to be talking, well, we are going to be talking about today. So here's our leaderboard.
Oh,
You'll
yay,
see
that's me, that's me.
Well, okay then. Okay, so we have Lucky Lark first, Fearless Pigeon, Lively Raven, Eager Monkey, and Social Dog. We have more people than that, but it just shows the top 5 on this one. So now we'll do another question. Okay. What animal is in the Firefox logo? A red panda, red squirrel, phoenix, or red fox? Okay. So what animal did Firefox design its logo after? Okay. And once everyone is in, it can cut off. Okay, let's see. And you see that speed does count, as does accuracy. Okay, okay, it is a red panda. Great. So let's see where we are now. Okay, so why did it not change? I don't know if we're having trouble with internet again, but we'll go. Okay, let's go to the next one. The Firefox logo features a red panda. Okay, there's a picture of a red panda. Okay. Okay, which company is older? Apple or Samsung? Okay. Apple or Samsung? Okay. Final few seconds here. And what you'll notice is on some of these, not only do I show the answer, but I show a little more information about it. So Samsung is the older company, okay? And here's our leaderboard, okay? Eager Monkey went to the top, Lively Raven, and just wanted, we can put in with Kahoot, you could put in explanation slides like I did here. Samsung was actually founded as a grocery store in 1938. Apple was founded in 1976. Okay, so that was our competition. And then at the end of a competition, you have a podium of winners. So we have, right, so we have the winner is Eager Monkey. Okay, so we just did a quick competition there. So thank you for playing along. And we are going to go back into here and go next. Okay, now I'm including this in the recording, so you don't need to do this right now. If you're watching the recording, I have set up an asynchronous Kahoot. So if you want to see what an asynchronous Kahoot does, I set up the exact one that we just did in an asynchronous mode, and it will be available through April 15th, 2020. And the URL is on the screen. And so if you want to see what it looks like to deliver it asynchronously, you can go there. Okay, so then we're going to go on. So that was Kahoot. Kahoot is one of my favorite tools, but again, it's not something I use every single day. Then we go on to Poll Everywhere. Poll Everywhere has several question types. A lot of these have several question types. It also has a competition quiz type. So you can do competitions in Poll Everywhere. I'm going to show you that coming up here. There's also an asynchronous option. And right now, Poll Everywhere is offering a free 90-day premium plan. Like other companies, Poll Everywhere is offering its products for free for a couple months to help us out. So this might be a good time to try these different types and see how you like them. The advantages of Poll Everywhere is it does have a competition feature like Kahoot. So that's nice. It collects great information. So you are going to be able to find out who did what, and everything is in the reporting for Poll Everywhere. So you've got it, you get a CSV file so you can upload the scores into your LMS or Homework Manager, whatever you have. And Poll Everywhere integrates easily with PowerPoint. The disadvantages, it's free for now, which I guess is not a disadvantage, but it is usually costs money, and I don't like to ask my students to pay for things extra, and they have a plan where students can pay so much. If you as a faculty member want to pay for it, and I'm just thinking of the large plan, it's like $350 a semester, but it's limited to 40 participants without a paid plan. That doesn't work for me, but it may work for you. And the other disadvantage to it is you could only have one poll live at a time. And where that comes into play as a disadvantage for me is I always do asynchronous options of all my polls. So I do one live in class, but then I have an asynchronous option out there. And sometimes there's some overlap. So Poll Everywhere, I feel kind of limits me, but it does work very well. And I want to show you how easy it is to use. So this right here is a screenshot of PowerPoint, and you can install Poll Everywhere in PowerPoint. They also have an add-in, I believe, for Google Sheets, and they may have one for Apple. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you install it, and then Poll Everywhere is in your ribbon. So when I was working on these slides today, I wanted to include a Poll Everywhere question in this PowerPoint to show you. So I clicked on the Poll Everywhere in the ribbon, and then I clicked on Insert, because now we're in the Poll Everywhere options, and I wanted to insert an activity. So what that does is it inserted this slide for me, okay? So if you could try this, I'm gonna have you go to another site, go to pollelev.com/WTIETZ, and you will get, somebody was really fast on the typing there, you will get this question that says, what is one word to describe how you're feeling about your online teaching? So go ahead, we'll wait about 30 seconds, see if we can get some answers in here. Yeah, exhausted, see if we have a common theme. Nervous, yep, those are all legitimate feelings. Happy face right in the middle there, that's great. Worried, yeah. Wow, overwhelmed, yeah. Excited, okay, we have one positive in the middle. We have a couple people saying exhausted, anxiety, okay? And this is, yeah, the bigger the words get, the more people that are using those words. Challenge, yeah, I hear you, and I'm right there with you. It's confidence, that's great. We have some confidence. So I think there's a mixture of feelings that everyone is feeling, but this is, you can look at it, you can choose to look at it as a really negative thing, and it is, but you can also look at it as a silver lining. You get to try some of these tools that you wouldn't have tried otherwise. Okay, so I am going to go on to my next slide, and I'm going to show you, so now we're done with the hands-on portion. I'm going to show you from a recent Poll Everywhere competition in my class. So this was, just to set it up, this was a fairly small class. It was online, and it was executive MBA students. And I wanted to do a little review for the exam. So this is, I was telling them, and this is, I just took these pictures from the recording of class that day. This was Poll Everywhere. I'm telling them we have 10 questions today, approximately 1 from each chapter. Their review questions. And then I'm telling them that if they win, they will get this decal. So these are executive MBA students. I'm offering them a little sticker, right? And then I put up, when you do Poll Everywhere, this is what a typical question looks like. It gives you a question, then you have the choices, and the students just tap on which one they want to answer. And it always gives the URL at the top where they're answering their question. Okay, and this one, this particular question, everyone got right. So when I closed it, we could all see, and I have the option to show it to them or not show it to them, but I wanted to show it to them. And then what it does is, I was running this one as a competition quiz. So Poll Everywhere also has fake names for students. So it assigns the students' names. And I love this because no one gets, and you, like Kahoot, you get a name that's not yours, and you're not embarrassing anyone, you're not revealing anything, you don't have any privacy concerns. The thing with Poll Everywhere is I knew who was who, because there is a report that tells me not who Mirthful Fresh Surf is, but I could see the student that got the top answer there. So then I just asked the student if they wanted the sticker, just to email me their address, and I mailed them the sticker. I don't usually give prizes out, but this was a fairly small class, so I felt pretty confident about doing it. And if I would have gotten any complaints, I think I would have given out 2 stickers or something. I wasn't going to argue about it. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Tracy. I have used Pearson Learning Catalytics a lot, and so has Tracy. So Tracy's going to share about Learning Catalytics.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks for all your tips. I've done a lot of what you've suggested, but I've also learned a couple of really interesting different ways to use Kahoot and Poll Everywhere. So great ideas that you had, Wendy. So I'm going to talk today specifically about Pearson Learning Catalytics. And some of you may be using a Pearson textbook. And if you are, Pearson has their own learning polling system, and that's called Learning Catalytics. And it features a lot of different questions and response types. And again, like our other systems that we talked about, it can be offered in synchronous and asynchronous modes. You can also have multiple sections active simultaneously. And one of the things I really like about it is that it's super user-friendly to copy questions within modules or to different modules. Now, what are the advantages and disadvantages of the Learning Catalytics? Well, it works on any device, so your students can use a computer, a tablet, an iPhone, an Android device. But the best thing about it is that it goes directly into your MyLab gradebook. So if you're using My Accounting Lab, it will go, the students' responses on the Learning Catalytics will go directly into your gradebook. And so you are able to actively assess their participation during class. I also like that it has a lot of pre-built questions in it so that I don't have to recreate any questions if I'm teaching a specific topic. You know, property, plant, and equipment, for example, there's already a ton of questions that are built, so I don't have to spend the time creating those questions. And if you're using a Pearson textbook, then it is free to be used with the MyLab product. So take a look for that. You'll find the Learning Catalytics on the main screen when you log into your MyLab course. Now, the disadvantage is that if you're not using a Pearson textbook, then your students will have to pay for it. They do have pricing options available. Students would pay $12 for 6 months access or $20 for 12 months. But I'll tell you, if you're not using a Pearson product, then I think you're better off using one of the other services. But if you are using a Pearson product, this is an awesome tool for you to use. So here's an example of what a question looks like. You can see this is very similar to what we see in the other polling systems. So this question's asking where an asset would appear on the financial statements. Students would answer their question. I also like this system, Learning Catalytics, because students can also ask you private questions through Learning Catalytics. So there's an area for them to message the instructor directly, and that's a really neat feature that's available in Learning Catalytics. And then on the next screen, you'll see this is the response you received back. So this is from a question related to bonds payable that I tested in one of my classes. You can see I had 9 students that participated in the poll, and I had about 78% get correct. And I can see that the other 2 options were option B and option C. So again, this just allows you the opportunity to be able to take the polling responses and clarify any results. And then also you can see that up here, this system, because it's linked directly to the student's MyLab login, I know the students' names would be listed there. I blanked them out, but you would see exactly which student answered which result. So a great tool if you're already using Pearson, the Pearson MyLab. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer, and Jennifer's going to talk about our next polling system.
Thanks, Tracy. So Tophat is another polling system that I currently use in my big mass lecture classes. So I have one class of 440 and another class of about 400 students. So I use it in both of those classroom settings, and it works pretty well. You can use it to take online attendance, you can quiz during lecture, and there's also an asynchronous option for you that you can set up quizzes, and you can even set up exams in Tophat. And there is a lockdown feature there that if you wanted to set up an exam, they could lock it down and help you monitor cheating. So those are some of the features of Tophat. The advantages, I think, to Tophat is it is very user-friendly, it's easy to set up, and they also have representatives assigned to you if you go with Tophat, that they will help you set up your courses quickly and easily and get your students all registered in there. What I like about Tophat is you can ask many different types of questions. So rather than just multiple choice or true-false types of questions, and there's a lot of features for open-ended, you can have mathematical computations in there. So there's a wide variety of questions you can ask that you don't see necessarily in some of the other polling systems. Currently, it is also being offered free to students and professors for the rest of the semester if you're trying to finish out your course. The big disadvantages, I think, is that students have to register into your Tophat class, and normally, depending on your pricing options for your school, then students will be paying between $20 to $30 a semester to use Tophat. So I do have a couple of screens. This is one right off of Tophat's website just to show you the different features. So you can run your video lecture, you can take online attendance, use Tophat to quiz your class, have live discussions. So this is their website, and if you want to get started now, then they're, like I said, they're doing it free to help you get set up if you're interested in using this. The next slide just kind of shows you the different question options, which is why I kind of migrated over to Tophat. I was using iClicker Cloud, which we'll talk about in a moment, but I really liked that they had a ton of different options here that you could set up for different question types. And then to the right, you can see, this is just an example of a question that I've already given in my financial accounting course. And you can see there's a grade book and students. And once I give that, I can see the correct responses, but then that assign to individuals button at the top, once I give it in class, then I can assign it so students can go back and review those questions later on. So that's how I normally use it. The next slide actually shows once you open up a session, what it looks like to your students. So you kind of go into your class, you start your session for the day, and then they can, text a code in, they can text the responses. So this is just an example of what the students see, and they can, like I said, do this on their phone or from a laptop. How I plan to use it going forward is I've done this synchronously, obviously, in my mass lecture classes, but there is an asynchronous option where I will quiz them outside of class and give them time to complete these questions. How I've used it in the past is trying to encourage attendance in a big class like that. Obviously, you know, it's hard to do that, and I'm definitely not going to take attendance every day. So what I do is I usually have 1 or 2 questions within the first 5 minutes of class and 1 or 2 questions at the end of class. So it encourages students to get there on time. It encourages them to stay the whole time and to pay attention, hopefully. So that's why I ask at the beginning and the end. And then how I use it is for every question they answer correctly, then I give them half a point. So if they answer it incorrectly, it really doesn't hurt them, and they're really just building and accumulating points all semester, and then they max out at, say, 20 points. So I make sure that I give them plenty of questions that if they're coming to class maybe 75 or 80% of the time and answering questions correctly maybe 75, 80% of the time, then they can earn their full 20 points. So it's just a way for me to encourage them to come to the mass lecture classes where it's easy to get very, very lost. iClicker Cloud is the next polling system, and I have used this in the past. The advantages is it's very user-friendly as well, and it works right out of the box with PowerPoint. You can embed questions right within your PowerPoints and then run it. I actually used iClickers way back in the day, and some of you may still use those or have seen those, where it's like a little almost remote control, and you have to use it synchronously in class. So I used iClickers back in the day, and then they migrated over to iClicker Reef, which was their online option. And what happened was when they first did this, it was a little unreliable. So I kind of, between that and they only had, you know, mostly multiple choice, true, false questions were most easy to use with iClicker. So then I found Tophat and kind of migrated over. But still, if your institution is using iClicker, then I would definitely check out iClicker Cloud if you haven't used it, because it is, and just a little note here, they are offering free training tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And the next page just kind of shows you from their website, kind of down at the middle bottom, the training that you could register for if it's something you're interested for. And again, with the iClicker Cloud, I think it's much more reliable now, easy to incorporate in your PowerPoints if you have those already, and you can then use it pretty seamlessly. So just another option for you to think about if you'd like. And now I'm going to turn that back over to Tracy, and she's going to finish this up.
Great, thank you. So I picked our meme for today. If you've been following us along, we've had a meme for every day. So I picked the meme for today, which my answer was tired. How do you feel about online teaching? Right now, I'm pretty tired. I've been working all week, like many of you have, and trying to get everything ready to go for when our students return. And just making sure that we're all, you know, being where we need to be, getting everybody up to speed. But I know that things are going to settle down. My mantra for today is that this will pass, and we will be ready to go when our students join us again if they haven't already. So hopefully you don't feel quite like this, but you know that we will make it through this for sure. And we are here to help you. So we definitely have a couple more webinars coming up in the next couple of days. So follow us on our blog so that you can get announcements about our future webinars. We have a webinar tomorrow that I'm super excited about, options for writing on your screen. So if you're thinking about how do I record a video of working out different types of problems, then join us tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern time. And next week, we're going to be doing a couple of webinars dealing with hands-on topics. So be on the lookout for those. We're going to give you some more detailed instruction about a couple of things we talked about this week. And just remember that you can get those recordings on accountingisanalytics.com. And if you're still interested in data analytics, we have an introductory Tableau course also coming next week, which is Tuesday, March 24th. So we have had some great questions that have come into our question and answer system. So just as a reminder, on the slide right there is the link that you can go to get access to a copy of our slides. That's tiny.cc/AIA-polling. Also, you can go to our website, accountingisanalytics.com, and you can get access to our recordings there. So Wendy, let's start off with you. So we have a great question. They really loved your idea about the 1-minute paper. They wanted to get a little more understanding of what method would you use to obtain each student's paper?
Student's paper, I'm sorry.
The 1-minute paper that you talked about at the beginning of our webinar today, how does that work?
Well, I use a polling question. So I'm currently using Learning Catalytics, which has a essay field to use, and Poll Everywhere does as well. And so those are my two main ones that I use. And excellent. I just asked them to, sorry, I asked them to fill out that, and then I download it to an Excel file, and then I can read each one of those.
Great, that sounds great. So like you may ask a question, you know, such as, give me an example of an asset, and then let me know where on what financial statement the asset might be included. And then they would type it in as an essay prompt.
Yeah, and typically, historically, when we talk about 1-minute papers, we're asking them to write what was the most important thing that they had that day. You could certainly do what you're talking about, which is more checking their understanding. They're crossover topics, but I do ask my students to write small paragraphs in the actual polling software.
Excellent, great. So now another question for you, Wendy. I know you covered Poll Everywhere, so we have an attendee who has already opened up PowerPoint to make sure that she had that Poll Everywhere button, and she cannot find it. So is there a fix for that?
Yes, what you need to do is you need to go to polleverywhere.com, and I think you need to sign up for a free account, and then over on the left side, there'll be some links to install the Poll Everywhere add-on to PowerPoint. So you can add it on to PowerPoint, you can add it on to Google Sheets, and I think there may be an Apple option. I don't remember. But you have to install it from the Poll Everywhere site. And then you have to, when you're in the PowerPoint the first time with it, you have to log in with your credentials to Poll Everywhere.
Perfect, excellent. We have another question on here related to Learning Catalytics. So as you know, Wendy and Jennifer, we have a couple people that are not just accounting professors joining us this week. And one of these individuals uses a mastering tool, which is related to the science disciplines. And they were wondering if Learning Catalytics works on mastering. And I did do a little quick Google investigation, and the answer is yes. So you can use mastering or MyLab for the Learning Catalytics for Pearson. So that's a great way to incorporate it in your courses if you're already using a Pearson textbook. Now we do have another question, and either Wendy or Jennifer, this question says, when you're doing a Zoom webinar, are there any polling options in Zoom, such as word clouds or multiple choice questions that you can build into Zoom?
I will take that. I have a professional Zoom account. That's how we're doing this. And there is polling included with the professional account. There are some polling options. It would be, for the free account, I guess I'm going to back out of saying I know the answer for that. I know with the pro account, you can do polling. I think with the free account, you can as well. And the free account, you're going to have to check to see how much reporting you could get. Because sometimes with free accounts, you don't get all the reports. But again, I mean, using Zoom's great, but you could, as you saw with me, after a little bubble, you can certainly use Zoom with any of these tools that we're talking about.
Yes, such a great idea, because that's exactly what we did today, Wendy, right? We're in Zoom and we used both Kahoot and Poll Everywhere, with only a little hiccup when the internet died for all of us, right? So just a reminder, one of the faculty that's joining us today said, you know, it looks like with a lot of these polling tools that there's additional cost associated with them. And we want to encourage you to check out their websites, because as we mentioned, a lot of them are offering free access for the rest of the academic semester. So please take a look at that, because even if it normally costs money, it may not, because of the situation that we're in. And also check with your institutions, because many institutions also have agreements with some of these polling systems to allow students and faculty to access.
Yes, and I want to say, like, Kahoot is free for up to 40 or 50. And so if you have a quote unquote normal class size, you can use that for free. And again, you can use Poll Everywhere to a certain point for free. If you're using a Pearson book, you can use Learning Catalytics for free. So there are workarounds. You can also Google other tools. I know of a couple other tools that are free, but we didn't talk about them because we just wanted to talk about the tools that we have experience with, rather than giving you a laundry list. So you can do some digging, look for some other free tools, but sometimes the instructor cost is not that bad. Like, I have the full Kahoot thing, and I think it's $100 a year or something. And I feel really good about that, because I feel like I get a lot of value out of it. So do take a look at things, and sometimes your school will pay for it, or like Tracy said, they may already have a site license for it.
Yeah, great. So this will be our last question. And again, we want to encourage you to join us tomorrow, and also for some more hands-on questions next week, webinars next week on our website, accountingisanalytics.com. This one specifically relates to Zoom again. And so the question is when you are using Zoom, can you get any attendance reports like we can get with some of our other polling systems?
Yes. When we're done here, I can download a report. I am going to Google this very quickly because I'm wondering about the free account, and I'm just looking to see. Okay, so I'm looking to see the reporting. It looks like there are also free reports for the free accounts. It looks like.
Excellent. So that's
yeah,
great. So
yeah.
does sound like even if you have the free version of Zoom, that you would be able to get some attendance.
Let me back out of that. I don't know. I'm looking at, I don't know what Pro Business Enterprise and Education account is, what that means. So maybe not sure. I would tend to say that Zoom is a very good tool like we're using right now, but I would tend to, for engagement, I would tend to use one of these other tools. I'm not sure I would rely, because students can sign in and then go do whatever they want, you know, and that doesn't really prove anything. But if you're asking them to think, and oftentimes if you solicit an answer from a student and they're wrong, and then you immediately talk about why it's wrong, they'll learn that better than just passively listening.
Yeah, so. Right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy and Jennifer, for joining our webinar today. I always enjoy presenting with you guys. And thank you to all of our attendees that joined us today. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Remember, if you can't join us, you can always find our recordings on accountingisanalytics.com. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.